You're listening to the Quint's podcast.
Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata may be submerged by 2050. You must have read these types of headlines today, right? But what does the finding really say? That's what this podcast is going to be about. The climate is definitely changing. It's not just a future that is dramatized in sci-fi movies. It's quite tangible actually. Not exactly how it was depicted in 2012, the movie, but in India, summers are definitely getting hotter and drier. And then we're also getting irregular monsoons to the point of flooding. And now some fresh warnings have come up on how much worse the situation might get by 2050. You're listening to The Big Story, the podcast where we dissect the biggest story of the day for you, and I'm Shorbari. A new report says that if emission levels aren't checked and continues to be on the same track it's on, many coastal areas in Asia, including some areas of India's populated metropolitans like Mumbai, Chennai and Kolkata, may get completely submerged or get chronic floods. In this podcast, I'll give you highlights from this report and also look at what it warns about India's vulnerable coast specifically, what kind of damages the report is projecting in the future, and also what are the assumptions that the report is based on. For this episode, I spoke to Nitin Sethi, an environment journalist.
So, any climate change prediction of what might happen to natural systems, including lands and seawater rising, etc., is built on two basic factors. One is saying how much will the future emissions be.
Debi Goenka, who leads Conservation Action Trust.
Well, first of all, this report is a worldwide report. It's not specific or a detailed report on any city. But it talks about the fact that climate change has led to global warming, and global warming has led to sea level rise.
And Vijay Nishant, who's an urban conservationist.
The India commitment to create additional of a carbon sink over 2.5 to 3 billion tons, but it has not met the standard till date and everything.
But before I go on, let me tell you that if you like listening to the Big Story podcast and you haven't subscribed to our playlist yet, you can do it now. We're live on Apple, JioSaavn, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and several other platforms. And now let me tell you a little about the report before I get to the details of its findings. The study was led by two scientists, Scott A. Culp and Benjamin H. Strauss, and published in Climate Central, which is an independent organization of scientists, journalists and researchers working on, as you've guessed, climate change.
Want to hear the rest of this podcast? Check out the link to the full episode in the description below and follow the Quint on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, JioSaavn and all other platforms we are on.